In a world that thrives on noise, one of the most underrated strengths a person can develop is the ability to speak less and act more. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest disciplines to master. Most people are in such a hurry to be seen, to be heard, to be validated, that they forget the value of keeping their efforts to themselves and letting their results make the noise. When you talk too much about what you're going to do, you're not just informing others, you're giving away your energy, you're giving away your momentum. And believe me, momentum is a fragile thing. It doesn't take much to throw you off course. One discouraging comment, one doubtful look, and suddenly your fire dims. Not because you couldn't do it, but because you let someone else hold the match. There's something powerful about working in silence. When you don't have to explain, justify, or defend your actions, your focus sharpens. Your energy isn't scattered by opinions or debates, it's concentrated on execution. And in the long run, execution is all that matters. Nobody remembers what you said you were going to do, they remember what you did. People often think that talking about their plans is motivating. They think that by announcing their goals, they'll be more accountable, but in reality, that announcement can create a false sense of achievement. Just saying it can trick the brain into thinking it's already halfway done. That's why so many goals never get completed, because people talk too much about them and work too little on them. The truth is, the more you speak, the more you invite distractions, and distractions are the enemy of discipline. Every time you explain yourself, you open the door to feedback that may not be useful. Every time you share your vision with the wrong audience, you risk watering down your belief. Not everyone deserves access to your inner fire. Some people will try to blow it out, not because they mean harm, but because they can't see your vision through your eye, and it's not their job to. It's your job to protect it. When you hold your tongue and direct that energy inward into planning, building, refining, you start to see progress, quiet progress, the kind that doesn't need validation because it's real, it's moving, it's building roots. And roots, my friend, don't grow above the surface. They grow in the dark, in silence. It takes strength to keep your work to yourself. It takes discipline to resist the urge to broadcast every step. But that strength builds character, and character builds results. And those results, when they come, they don't need an introduction. They don't need an explanation. They speak for themselves. Think of the great achievers, not just the loud ones, but the impactful ones. They didn't spend their time posting about their hustle. They were too busy doing the work. While the world scrolled, they sculpted. While others talked about what they would do someday, they did it today. And when their work surfaced, it came like a wave, silent, strong, and impossible to ignore. Speaking less doesn't mean you don't believe in yourself. It means you believe so deeply that you don't need the applause to move forward. You don't need the audience to begin. You've already convinced the most important person in the room, you. And that's all it takes. The next time you feel the urge to announce your next big step, pause, ask yourself, is this for clarity or for attention? Is this helping me or just making me feel busy? Because there's a big difference between being busy and being productive. The world rewards the productive, and productivity flows best in silence. When you speak less and act more, your time becomes sacred, your effort becomes focused, your path becomes clearer. You move not with noise, but with power. You don't waste energy explaining, you invest it in building. And the more you build, the more confident you become, not because others said you could, but because you've proven it to yourself, in the quiet, in the grind, where no one was watching. Keeping your vision private until it becomes visible through results is not about hiding, it's about protecting. Your vision is like a young plant. In the beginning, it's delicate, vulnerable, and still forming its roots. Exposing it too early to the harsh winds of judgment, opinions, and external noise can damage its growth. Too often, people confuse visibility with progress. They think the more people know about their goals, the more likely they are to succeed. But what they don't realize is that early exposure can drain the energy needed to actually follow through. When your vision is still in its infancy, it needs time to mature in silence. It needs your full attention, not divided between building and explaining. If you're constantly justifying your dream to others, defending it, or trying to make them see it the way you do, you're spending valuable time on the wrong activity. The goal isn't to convince others, it's to convince yourself. And that conviction grows in private, not in public. There's a confidence that comes from creating without commentary. A quiet fire builds inside when you know you're doing the work but don't feel the need to announce it. You begin to move with purpose. You start becoming the person who gets things done rather than the one who talks about what they're going to do. Because the truth is, people are watching even when you think they aren't. And when the results show up, they speak louder than any promise ever could. Keeping your vision private also protects you from premature criticism. Not everyone will understand your path. Some will doubt it, others will mock it, and some will project their own fears onto your goals. If you open the door too soon, you invite that energy in. That noise can cloud your focus, plant seeds of self-doubt, and slow down your progress. It's not that feedback is bad. It just needs to come at the right stage, from the right people, and after the foundation is already strong. Another benefit of staying quiet about your vision is flexibility. When you keep things to yourself, you allow room for change. If your strategy shifts or your idea evolves, you don't have to backtrack or explain anything. You're free to pivot, to test, to fail, and try again without an audience watching every move. That space gives you freedom, and freedom is essential when building something meaningful. Think about all the people who announce big plans, starting a business, writing a book, launching a new idea, only for nothing to ever come of it. The announcement becomes the achievement. The applause from saying it feels like progress, so the urgency to do the work fades. This is the trap. Words feel like action, but they're not. Action is action, and when that action bears fruit, it's undeniable. Letting your results be the proof is the most powerful statement you can make. When people see what you've built, what you've created, what you've achieved, without ever hearing a word about it beforehand, they take notice. Not because you demanded attention, but because the work earned it. You didn't have to shout. You just had to show up consistently. There's also a deeper kind of respect that grows when you deliver without warning. People begin to trust your silence. They understand that if you're quiet, you're probably building. If you're not saying much, you're probably making moves. And that builds a reputation rooted in reliability, not in hype. And don't confuse privacy with fear. Keeping things to yourself doesn't mean you're afraid, it means you're focused. You're aware of the noise out there, and you choose to keep your energy guarded. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. You're not hiding from the world. You're preparing to meet it with something finished, something real, something tested and true in the end. Let the outcome do the talking. Let the finished product be the announcement. Let your success introduce you. That kind of introduction doesn't just turn heads, it changes minds. And the best part is, you didn't have to say a word. You just had to do the work. Silence is often mistaken for weakness in a world where noise gets the spotlight. But silence, when chosen deliberately, is not a void, it's a force. It's not the absence of power, but the restraint of it. Knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet gives you control over your energy, your thoughts, and your direction. Most people are quick to speak because they think they have to be heard to be known. But the wise know that presence doesn't always require volume. When you embrace silence as a strategy, you begin to notice things others don't. You hear more, see more, and understand deeper. You're no longer distracted by the urge to react or the temptation to respond. Instead, you hold your position, gather strength, and choose your moments with intention. That's power. Power isn't always loud, it's the calm control you hold when you don't give in to impulse. Silence helps you master your emotions. Instead of speaking out of frustration, excitement, or fear, you give yourself time to process. You think before you speak. You move with precision instead of haste. That level of control allows you to navigate challenges more effectively. You stop oversharing your plans, reacting to every criticism, or defending your choices to people who don't matter. You protect your peace. There's also a discipline in silence that many overlook. It takes strength to keep your success private while it's in progress. It takes restraint not to boast or seek approval. But when you keep building in silence, something remarkable happens. You start to value the process more than the praise. You become internally motivated, fueled by your goals instead of external recognition. And that kind of motivation is durable. It doesn't fade when the applause stops. Another powerful aspect of silence is that it allows your results to speak louder than any words. When you walk into a room with proven results, you don't have to convince anyone of your value. It's already evident. Silence lets your actions build your reputation. People begin to associate you with execution, not empty talk. They know you as someone who delivers, not someone who only promises. Silence also creates mystery, and mystery draws attention far more effectively than noise. When people can't read your every move or predict your next step, they become curious. That curiosity builds respect. It also keeps you unpredictable, which is a strong advantage in a competitive world. You're not playing by their timeline. You're moving on your own terms. There's peace in silence, too. In the quiet, you reflect, you adjust, you grow. You don't get lost in comparisons or drama. You stay anchored. And when the time comes to speak, to share, to act, you do so with confidence because you've already done the work behind the scenes. Let others shout. Let them announce every step, every goal, every little win. You don't need to. Your silence is your statement. Your discipline is your message. And when the right moment comes, what you've built will be impossible to ignore, not because you made noise, but because you made impact. Let your success be your announcement, not your words. That's a principle that separates the talkers from the doers. Too many people spend their time broadcasting plans, setting expectations in public, hoping for applause before they've even done the work. But the truth is, applause without achievement is hollow. It fades. What lasts is impact. What you've built, what you've delivered, and the difference it's made. Real success doesn't need a press release. It doesn't need you to convince others. When it's real, it speaks for itself. It shows up in the results, in the transformation, in the way others begin to take notice without you having to wave a flag. That's the kind of success that matters. The kind that walks into the room before you do and stays long after you've left. When you make success your announcement, you're saying something deeper. I've done the work. I've put in the hours. I've earned this. And that speaks louder than any claim or caption ever could. It commands respect because it wasn't handed to you. You built it. Quietly, consistently, without needing approval at every turn. People may not notice you while you're climbing, and that's okay. You don't climb to be seen, you climb to reach the top. And when you get there, the view is yours. The rewards are real. Not just likes, not just attention, but opportunities, growth, and the satisfaction of knowing you stayed the course when nobody was clapping. There's a kind of peace that comes with letting results do the talking. You don't have to argue with doubters. You don't need to defend your decisions. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Your work proves your worth. And in that proof, there's freedom. You're free from needing constant validation. You're free to focus on the next step, the next challenge, the next goal. Even the people who once questioned you will shift when they see what you've accomplished. They won't remember your words, they'll remember your results. Because that's what leaves a mark, not the noise, but the evidence. Not the promises, but the performance. So instead of telling the world what you're going to do, go do it. Instead of announcing every small move, stay quiet and build. Let them see it when it's real. Let them feel it when it's strong. Let your success walk in the door. Take the seat at the table and do all the talking for you. Mastering the art of keeping things to yourself is not about silence for silence's sake. It's about strength, strategy, and self-respect. When you learn to guard your energy, protect your vision, embrace the power of silence, and let your success be the loudest thing about you, you move differently. You build with purpose, you act with intention, and you rise without noise. Because when the work is done and the results are real, you won't have to chase attention, it will find you.